Hello and welcome. It is time for the first round of the second week of the group stage of the Super League Championships. Patrick Dickmann with his take on Green-White Megamorph, kind of Bant Megamorph if you count the sideboard. Shaun McLaren with an emphasis on the 4-drops and Retreat to Emeria's ability to make tokens. So Shaun's on the play. Patrick has that night. Kind of get to see the decks do what they're supposed to do with these hands, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Patrick, obviously, you love your hand. Shaun's hand, it's lacking the smoothness, I would say, of Patrick's hand. It doesn't have the Rattleclaw Mystic. He has to wait till turn 2 for his Warden in the first tree. His turn 3 play is going to be a little bit awkward. So just in terms of the opening hand quality, looking how it plays out, you have to favor Patrick's side.
Yeah, sounds right. Warden of the first tree, not exactly on schedule on turn 2.
Interesting decision point early on for Patrick here as he decides whether or not to play Hangerback Walker or wrap up a Warden. Usually the play is to get your Hangerback Walker in play first because you can A, start digging it up, and B, you'd rather have them spend mana activating their Warden before you Silk Wrap it, and we see that Patrick goes with that play.
Yeah, Hangerback comes down.
Nice draw here for Shaun as he fills his 3 spot in the curve. Certainly, while Patrick, I think, is favored in this game, Shaun has the right types of cards in his hand to put a lot of pressure on Patrick. We see one of the classic plays of this standard here also is Shaun uses a Stasis Snare Oblivion Ring type effect to remove Hangerback Walker forever. And it's nice to get that sort of thing down early because it's going to decrease the efficacy of your opponent's Dromoka's commands as the game goes along, really reducing them to 2 modes.
Now, you like that, or sounded like you thought Nissa was the turn 3 play?
I have less experience playing these sort of green-white decks than Shaun and Patrick do, so I'm certainly going to defer to their expertise. My instinct was to put an attack in with the Warden and play the Nissa, but as I mentioned, there is some equity involved in making sure you get one of those Oblivion Rings. And of course, I'm referring to Silk Wrap and Stasis Snare and the like before your opponent can Dromoka's command, because now the sacrifice and enchantment mode is functionally turned off until he can do it at least twice, and it's just a +1/+1. It's just a Hunt the Weak now at instant speed. Still a powerful card, but you can certainly see why Shaun made the play he did.
Well, speaking of powerful cards, there's Knight of the White Orchid. So it's turn 3 on the draw. Patrick can play the Knight off the WW that's already in play. He can get a 4th land, and then it comes into play untapped. So he's able to cast both the Knight and the Silk Wrap on his 3rd turn there.
Right, and obviously, see a situation here where Gideon is a very powerful card, but the draw that Patrick has is just matching up very nicely here. This turn he's going to be able to go to Nissa, and he has a couple different options with the Dromoka's command. He can fight the Knight and put Gideon down to 1, or he could just attack, since Knight of the White Orchid matches up well against 2/2 Knight Ally.
Yeah.
It's like getting a little bit of imagery. Okay, there we go.
I think we're Knight of the White Orchid heads over.
Oh, I guess, yeah, the lag missed it. Patrick picked up a Death Mist Raptor, which is another nice creature here.
This is like Shaun's debating. Do you chump block here? I assume the Knight's attacking Gideon.
I tend to not chump block in situations. I'm not sure, again, Patrick's exact list, but usually there's nothing that he can have that gets Gideon all the way down. Although, again, with Shaun having Retreat of Emeria in hand, perhaps he's on the turbo emblem plan.
Sure.
And again, that's the difference. I mean, Gideon is such a powerful card, but it's versatile as well, right? Obviously, we've seen it being used in Jeskai Black, and Abzan, and in Esper, and these white-green decks. And here,
this retreat's kind of insane right here, right?
It's going to be great. Yeah, it's certainly going to be great. It's going to make a couple 2/2 creatures, and a couple 2/2 creatures the next turn after that.
Right. Fetch land, sack it. Fetch land, sack it. There's a Nissa waiting to get another land.
Yep. Yeah. My point being that, in a deck like White Black, Gideon is trying to grind you out an advantage and make 2/2s all game. Here, as I mentioned before, Shaun may be
Mhm.
thinking about turbo embleming since he has so many ways to take advantage of the emblem. So that's an intriguing play that he decided to switch directions there. You'd think that if his plan was to make another knight, that he would not have chump blocked last turn.
Fair. I don't know. Is there value in chump blocking until maybe you stabilize the board? I don't know. Having that fetch land untapped does allow him to turn his knight into a 3/3 on Patrick's turn.
Right, and so wouldn't you much rather have a Gideon on 2 and another knight in play when you have your retreat out in the situation?
It depends if I'm going to make the emblem later.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, right, if he does let it go down to 2, it would take a couple more turns to tick it up to make an emblem. So, again,
Yeah, we have a little bit of hand cam lag on Patrick, so
yeah.
he has drawn
So,
a card. We just don't know what it is yet.
I certainly will confess to a low confidence level in some of my lines of play
Wow.
here.
Knight of the White Orchid attacking doesn't it just get eaten by the ally token?
Well,
Trap the
Shaun has to
fetch
be
land.
careful of stuff like Dramoka's command, which is exactly what Patrick has in hand in this spot.
So do you think Shaun puts him on exactly Dramoka's command from the attack in with the into fetch land plus retreat?
It's possible. It's possible. Um,
It's one of those where like your opponent could miss it, right?
right. And also, we see, Shaun, I think, maybe made a better play than I would have earlier in this game by playing the Stasis Snare on turn 3, because now his retreat to Emiria is protected from that mode of Dramoka's command. So, a couple turns later, we see, why experience with the deck is so valuable that Shaun made a play that perhaps I would have missed.
That's a great point. I think that is exactly why he wanted the Stasis Snare early.
And I identified that was the potential reason why he might do something like that, but it developed kind of exactly as Shaun might have expected. So nice
Yeah.
play by Shaun there on turn 3.
And now this time he does let Gideon take a couple points of damage.
Yeah.
He did not go for the kill. He gave Patrick credit for seeing the fetch land retreat interaction and did not try to eat Patrick's creature.
Yeah. And I'm sure in about 4 turns I'll find out why he chump blocked with that Knight ally the first turn that Knight of the White Orchid attacked, and I'll feel silly again, but won't be the first time. Pretty ugly draw from Shaun there. Another
Second
Nissa.
Nissa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Although
mean, he's.
he can't feel too bad about his position. He's doing exactly what it is that he wants to be doing, making tokens. He's got a Gideon and a retreat going. He's got the fetch lands. The problem here is that Patrick has had a good draw to match up with it as well, and he's going to be the first one to flip Nissa and start getting a repetitive advantage from that. So Shaun's thinking, okay, it's time to end this game. We got to start going to work here.
All right, Gideon turns into a creature. Retreat pumps the team.
So might we see Nissa block and then a Death Mist Raptor fight or something to that effect? There's a lot of different options here, actually.
So there are. There's also, of course, a fetch land that can trigger retreat. So Patrick, not interested in fighting with that fetch land retreat, blowing him out in any potential fights, just takes it, goes down to 5.
Interesting. Yeah. See, this is I would be lost here. I've noticed something about when I play against players who have more experience in constructed formats, especially European players, is that they're willing to just take it. They're willing to go to a very low life total, whereas my creatures are always getting into combat. Like if there's any plausible way that I can use the block function on my creature, I'm going to use that function of the creature, because I kind of figure like it only has a few functions, so I can use as many as I can. Not saying it's right or not, but Another thing is they wait. Patrick's had this Dramoka's command with many turns to cast it, and he's just waiting for the perfect moment. It seems like.
Well, it's Shaun's end step, and he's thinking about it again. Looks like he is finally going to pull the trigger. So Knight is going to fight Nissa, and presumably somebody gets a counter. Yeah, plus one counter on the Knight so that it wins the fight, of course. Now, if Shaun cracks a fetch land as a response, then the fight's a draw. They both die.
But Patrick would be okay with that because then his Deafness Raptor alone would be able to finish off Shaun's Gideon. Given that Shaun's gone on this extremely aggressive plan, it's very important that Patrick does not allow Shaun to untap again with Gideon.
Right, and Shaun is willing to lose the fight because that Flooded Strand's mission is to make a blocker.
Or at least to force Patrick to commit both Knight of the White Orchid and Deafness Raptor to the cause if he's going to finish off Gideon.
So to threaten a blocker.
Correct, yeah. And the threat in the blocker could potentially lead to a different plan because then once Patrick commits two of his attackers to the attack, well, now that Flooded Strand might be used to overrun the team. I mean, there's a lot of different intricacies here depending on how Patrick decides he wants to go with this.
All right, so we want to see who these guys are attacking. I assume they're both going at Gideon, but...
Yeah, it has to be a Gideon.
Yep. So Gideon down, wow. Now what happens?
Yeah, so now, Shaun's going to try to finish off Patrick here with tokens and retreat to Amiria's +1/+1 ability before the card advantage from Nissa takes the game over. We see Patrick is flooding pretty brutally here, so there is some chance that could be successful. And in fact, a fetch land here would actually end the game. So if he goes for it, he can't know that Patrick has 3 lands in his hand.
So Flooded Strand can make a guy, and then if Shaun draws a fetched land so he can put 2 lands into play, then the 2 unblocked creatures would actually be lethal.
Correct.
Well, he's going to make the guy.
Sure.
Draws Wingmate Rock. That's not a bad card.
That's not a bad card either. And, as often happens in Standard, especially with these decks that have minimal mana sinks, what appeared to be a promising start for Patrick was really, waylaid by drawing 4 or 5 lands there in a row. Pretty much all of the cards that he's played, we saw in that opening hand, other than the one Deafness Raptor. He's just drawn virtually all lands. That's part of the appeal of some of these blue decks, right? You're playing Jace, so it's very, very difficult to just flood right into Bolivia. So now at this point, really no wrong way to eat this Reese's for Shaun. Can't really die from 17. He could attack with 1 Knight Ally and play the Wingmate Rock. He could just finish off the Nissa and play the Wingmate Rock. He could just try to get some damage in and play the Wingmate Rock. He could play his own Nissa, and all of the plays have their own merits, and frankly, all of them put him in a pretty good position.
Who did he attack? Can we? Yeah, okay. Nissa.
Yeah.
So even through a Dramoka's command, Nissa's still dying.
Yeah, so this would indicate to me that his plan is to play the Wingmate Rock post-combat, since he's no longer interested in sneaking a damage or 2 through to Patrick's life total. He's gonna rely on those Wingmate Rocks to finish this game off.
Yeah, he basically had to choose between Nissa and Wingmate Rock this turn. Couldn't quite play both. All right, Patrick just picks off one of these, right?
Yeah, and what's often missed in games like this, where of course, as we saw again, Patrick draw many lands in a row, is how brilliant Shaun's turn 3 play was in setting up the retreat to Emiria, which has created this repetitive advantage, which allows him to take advantage of Patrick's poor luck. So, even though Shaun was very lucky, he put himself in a position to be able to take advantage of that luck.
Yeah, Patrick has seen enough. Reveals his hand. Like, oh, totally flooded, dude.
Yep. Yeah, that game went something like 7 or 8 turns, and Patrick drew one non-land card. He drew the Deafness Raptor, so that's pretty brutal.
Yeah. Now, how do you think this matchup changes after sideboarding? A little bit of lag on Patrick's side. Hopefully, we'll get to see his sideboard too. But
yeah, so the interesting thing, I mean, Patrick is certainly going to bring in some of these blue cards that are effective against Shaun's 4-drops and Wingmate Rocks. I think that the plan for this deck is usually to take out Knight of the White Orchid when you're on the play, since you're much less likely to get a chance to trigger it. Let's see. Yeah, so obviously he's targeting the Disdainful Strokes. I don't know about Archangel of Tides, if that's an effective card or not. Seems like it would be an effective card to me, but it's also a lot of mana for something that can get picked off by a Dromoka's Command.
now, during the pregame, you were talking about liking Patrick's side of this matchup, but primarily because of the sideboard cards.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that game one is really a toss-up. Games 2 and 3, the sideboard cards I do like for Patrick, since it's frequently going to be the 4 and the 5 drops that win the game. Your Wingmate Rocks, your Retreats, your Gideons, and not the piddling stuff like Hangerback Walker. And so being able to trade the 2 mana of Stroke for 4 or 5 mana is an incredible tempo play, in which, in most of the games, neither player is going to struggle for things to do. Again, assuming you don't draw 15 lands.
Sure. Yeah, it's worth noting here that Patrick won last week, whereas Shaun lost last week. So you either get a 2-0 and an 0-2 by the end of this match, or the group gets super tight with a pair of 1-1s in the middle of it.
Yep. And certainly going to 0-2 here, unless it's two close 0-2s and you have a pro point tiebreaker and a bunch of other weird stuff happens, you have to think 0-2 is kind of a death sentence. So
yeah, hypothetically, you can advance as the best in a 3-way tie at 1 and 2.
Right.
Shaun does have the most pro points in the group. It is possible. Yeah, we should just go ahead and start the game, even though we've lost Patrick's hand. I think looks like it's just gonna be a little laggy. Gideon is the card on the left edge, by the way. Certainly appreciate Patrick staying up late at night, or possibly early tomorrow morning, depending on how you want to look at it. But the internet speed on the hand cam is not doing us any favors.
Yeah, and his hand here doesn't seem spectacular. He has, in fact, chosen to mulligan that hand, although you can't see it yet. Okay. Yeah, he had 3 lands, 3 4-drops, and a 5-drop. Much stronger 6-card hand, obviously.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So I was wrong again, so we'll go ahead and keep a counter of that. He left Knight of the White Orchid in here on the play, which surprises me. But I know that when I've watched other people play and when we were testing Knight of the White Orchid decks, we were frequently boarding them out on the play.
Yeah, I know Brad's Grand Prix list had 3 in the main and 1 in the sideboard that he would bring in when he was on the draw. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many he took out on the play, but Brad's sideboard's a lot of cards, that's for sure. All right, Knight of the White Orchid on turn 1. Shaun has no turn 1 play. Patrick's turn 2 without a second white source, right? He didn't have a second untapped white source. He will have Canopy Vista for next turn.
Shaun's hand is pretty mint here. He's got everything except for a 3rd land that he could possibly want.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's a little land-like. They often are full of juice when they have no lands.
He does have a Visionary, right? So he's going to have a lot of draw steps to try to find that 3rd land.
Agreed.
Can't see what the card is on the right, but it is not a land. Oh, it might be Forest, actually. It's hard to say. Oh, Rattleclaw.
Silkwrap is the play here, not the Visionary.
Yeah. He's thinking from a perspective of being a player who's on the draw against a player who's mulliganed. Most of the ways in which he loses are the way he gets just beat up. And so he's thinking, okay, he's already invested 2 turns and a bunch of mana in this ward, and let me make sure I don't get beat up. definitely didn't want to put his Rattleclaw Mystic in play when Patrick had a creature and expose it to a fairly brutal Dromoka's command.
Sure. Did Patrick just choose not to play Knight of the White Orchid that turn?
Looks like it.
Yeah,
to be
right?
honest, it looks like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm more looking at Sean's hand here. So, but definitely.
Yeah, he just did nothing on turn 3 instead of playing Knight of the White Orchid.
Interesting.
All right, Silkwrap Rattleclaw is not great news for Shaun, especially Patrick saw that he missed a land drop. Land number 3 did finally come off the top for Shaun, though.
Yep.
So now, what, the first in a string of Nissas, or?
Possibly. The issue with that play is that the Wood Foothills would have to get basic forest to play the Nissa this turn, and then he's still going to be lacking that second plane, so he may elect to play Elvish Visionary and fetch another Canopy Vista to make sure that he can play the rest of his hand, but we'll see. He may just assume that after fetching and searching out a forest and all the different things. Okay, he does go with that play.
Yeah, I went with your line. And fetched first. Didn't really want to draw the Canopy Vista.
Smart.
So, Knight chips in for 2, and wow, Patrick is flooded again. Despite mulliganing down to 6, this draw is 6 land, 2 spell?
This could be the famous lagged Wingmate Rock. It is the
lagged Wingmate Rock. Never mind, I take it all back. Patrick's draw is great.
Yes. The famous Super League Championship slow roll lag Wingmate Rock.
Here is Silkwrap to take care of half of that bird.
Yeah, and Shaun really is just going to have to get 2 for 1 and accept that, and, it is what it is.
I mean, his hand is full of gas still, and Patrick didn't have a lot. It was on a mulligan. Seems like even after this 2 for 1, Shaun's still going to have more going on.
Another fairly genius play from Shaun here that might have gone by the wayside is playing the Silkwrap instead of Stasis Snare to lead, again, to get himself an enchantment that he could sacrifice to Dromoka's command. He correctly identifies that in this game, the life that Patrick's going to gain from Wingmate Rock is not how he's going to win the game, given how many cards Shaun is going to be ahead. So he says, let me Silkwrap this token, and that way he can't get back a Warden of the First Tree or the actual Wingmate Rock itself with Raid by using Dromoka's command sacrifice ability. So, again, a little thing, but I'm constantly impressed by Shaun's ability to find those small plays.
Do you like the block mode on Elvish Visionary from last turn?
I was drooling over the Silkwrap play. What happened?
He just chump blocked Knight of the White Orchid so that he would be at 10 instead of 8.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty reasonable. As we see here, Patrick drew a very nice card, and Gideon is going to end up winning this game. But that's the problem when you don't have lands.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's sort of been the story of both of these games: is one player without lands and one player with nothing but lands. But we do see we have seen some good Magic despite the mana issues.
Yeah, this game didn't feel totally lopsided.
No. Smart mulligan by Patrick there too. To mulligan 3 lands, 4 spells, but not the right 3 lands, 4 spells.
That's a great point. Yeah, he mulliganed 3 land, 4 spells into a draw that just was able to win the game before Shaun could stabilize.
Right.
Now, do you think anybody changes anything play draw?
Well, certainly if Patrick had shaved Knight of the White Orchid at all, he's going to bring those back in for game 3.
Looks like he might have had 1 in the board.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah, he'll definitely want to be bringing that back in. Death Mist Raptor is not a card that blows me away against Shaun's deck, but it may be too critical to Patrick's deck to make it function. With his Dromoka's commands and just as a creature that can trigger raid and with his masteries and all that kind of stuff. I'm shocked that Patrick does not want all the Wingmate Rocks here. That's surprising to me.
What do you think of Mastery of the Unseen in this matchup? I didn't think it was 4 green-white mirrors. Not quite mirror, but green-white, green-white.
Well, I don't love it. I mean, it's not what I would expect to be important in these sort of matchups, but it would have been great for him game 1. So, maybe that's in the back of his head a little bit, thinking, okay, if I have 12 lands out, Mastery would sure seem nice. One thing about mastery, if you get to the point in the game where it's your mastery against their retreat to Emiria, they need to keep drawing lands for their card to be effective. You need nothing. So
Fair.
I wonder. I didn't see if Shaun boarded in his Hallowed Moonlights, but that's one of my favorite cards in Standard. I would love for that to come up at some point in Game 3.
I believe the way Group A works out, Patrick can actually clinch advancement if both he and Gabby win their matches. Because then there'll be a pair of 2-0s and a pair of 0-2s. If Kenji beats Gabby, though, then everything will still be to play for at the end.
So Patrick's going to win and then get one of those Sparts sweatshirts that I always see Andrew Beckton wearing.
Fair. Yeah, you can join Team Ulamog.
Ooh. So this is interesting. Both players have exactly what they want. Yeah,
Disdainful Stroke is the thing on the edge of Patrick's hand.
Which is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
if it works out, because we'll see if Shaun...
Patrick doesn't have green mana.
Well, he has 2 Flooded Strand.
Okay, right. Sorry, never mind.
Really fascinating to see the way this game plays out. Obviously, Shaun's going to lead with Rattleclaw Mystic, and the way it is right now, Patrick's going to do nothing on turn 2. So is Shaun going to play Retreat into a potential Stroke, knowing deck lists? Can't wait to see what happens. There's a lot of things that both players could draw that could affect that, obviously, but.
All right, Shaun starts with Canopy Vista. Interesting. He wants to save his fetch lands rather than get the basic that would let everything come into play untapped. Prairie Stream for Patrick.
It makes sense. What Patrick did is you're saying that Shaun leading the Canopy Vista?
Yeah. Shaun was the one that.
I think that in general he just wants to preserve fetch lands if possible for retreat.
Right. Here, though, he chose to get a Plains rather than play Forest.
Yeah, I guess I don't know anything.
Yeah, no, I didn't. The decisions didn't seem like they were pulling in the same direction.
Oh, this is so exciting. I bet you Shaun smells it out.
It is 2-1 over there.
And he didn't do anything,
And no 2-drop.
Oh my god, he's going to play the Forest to play it? It's just too attractive.
If he smells it out, he just plays Nissa and attacks, right?
Oh my god.
Oh, he did it.
So good. He did smell it out. Shaun is so good. God, it's scary.
Yeah, no disdainful stroking Nissa.
Brilliant.
You want to continue doing nothing, Patrick? Says Sean McLaren. I'll keep attacking you with these things until you tap out.
As I said, disdainful stroke is a huge liability in this matchup.
Is that what you said?
This is the thing about a lot of these blue cards, is that they tend to be better against weaker players, and Shaun is not a weaker player.
Ward to the First Tree works out nice, though. It lets him leave up Disdainful Stroke and still do things with his mana. It's actually quite a nice top deck. He even gets to spend the other Disdainful Stroke mana if Shaun doesn't play anything into it, right?
Could have also cast Knight of the White Orchid, but then I think... Does he have a basic island? I don't know if he does.
I don't think so.
Okay, then he had to make that play in order to be able to leave up Stroke. Could not be stroking this fast enough, that's for sure.
Indeed. At some level, Shaun had no play other than casting something into potential Disdainful Stroke.
Oh, sure.
It's hard to blame Shaun for that one.
Not at all.
Now here's the Knight of the White Orchid, and it will get value.
And it will probably still leave Stroke up.
I think that's the Stroke from before. And Handcam lag. I don't think he has a second one.
I believe he did draw a second Stroke.
He drew a second one. Okay.
Now, Shaun is going to know with a pretty good degree of certainty that he does have stroke here, though, because he did not leave open white-green for Dramoka's command, and he did not activate his Warden in the first tree. So there's really a limited amount of things that white and white-blue could represent. May have, like, Valorous Stance. I don't know if he has that in his deck, but...
A fine point. Shaun is going to cast the retreat, though. There's only 3 in the sideboard. He's already seen one of them.
And like
Maybe
I
puts
said...
Patrick on a bluff? Like on representing it but not having it? This is not a next level play from Patrick, though. It's just a disdainful stroke.
As I said before, stroke is the key card in the matchup. And
is that before or after you flood into Bolivia?
Yeah, I don't know.
I liked it.
I need to make sure that whatever happens, I cover all my bases and properly hedged.
Got it. The one thing that Shaun does get out of feeding that retreat into the Disdainful Stroke mana is that he's kind of clearing a path for this Wingmate Rock.
Yeah, he's identified the Wingmate Rock is the most important card for him to resolve. He'd much rather resolve that than retreat. So, especially we've seen how little Shaun values a naked retreat that could just get Dramoka's commanded away.
Dueling Nissas, and once again, Patrick is going to be the first one who's in position to flipper, even though he was on the draw, thanks to Knight of the White Orchid.
Yeah, and for those of you watching at home, now we are out of Disdainful Strokes. The last one was just lagged away. So,
and now Warden gets pumped, so Shaun knows it too.
Two options here. Chump attack, player Warden, or retreat, fetch land, crack both fetch lands, make 2 tokens, stasis snare something. I think I like option 2.
Retreat, fetch land, stasis snare?
Yes. Or you don't even necessarily need to cast stasis snare, but leave stasis snare up.
Sure.
There. Nissa is the most immediately threatening card that Patrick has in play, but Warden is a better blocker for getting through Wingmate Rock, and that's interesting. You see Shaun taking his time here. I think this is maybe one of the critical phases of the game as we head into the late game. Interesting. So he goes with the chump attack plan.
Wow.
So he can attack for 12 next turn.
Really? 3 triggers of retreat? Yeah. Crazy.
But that's just not enough.
12 is not 14. True story.
Really interesting play.
Is he in that big of a hurry?
Yeah, I didn't love it, honestly. And obviously it looks worse. We know that Patrick has stasis snare. So
Patrick has also just drawn a Wingmate Rock of his own.
Right, but he will also be forced to chump attack if he wants to get that into play.
Fair.
So I think... He's got a lot of options, too. But I think the best option might be go.
Wow.
Well, shows what I know. These guys love the chump attack in their Wingmate Rock, so it must be the right play. Pretty naked attempt to trigger raid here, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I guess double Dramoka's command could punish Shaun here, but...
Yeah. No.
Yep, there is the Wingmate Rock. Now, Shaun's Wingmate Rocks can certainly win a fight after he plays Retreat to Emeria. Nissa.
So he's probably going to go Retreat, attack for 12, stasis snare your Wingmate Rock, and then try to kill you next turn.
Makes sense.
because he'll have 2 flying attackers against a player. Well, I guess it leaves Patrick the opportunity to chump block too, although I don't see him chump blocking here.
All right. Retreat to Emeria, plays the fetch land. They're both 4/5s now.
Yeah, but Shaun can just attack and then see what Patrick does before deciding.
Yeah, I mean, he can even attack with Rattleclaw, right?
What is going on?
That Rattleclaw can get pretty big thanks to the retreat. It's already a 3/2. It can get to, what, 5/4?
Right, I get that, but the problem is that now he's going to get cracked back by Wingmate Rock. It's going to make it really difficult to kill Patrick next turn.
You wanted him to save the mana for Stasis Snare?
I think if he's going to go on this plan of get damage in, screw my Nissa, attack with everything every turn, which seems like a great plan, but now it seems like Patrick has some counterplay there. I mean, just like if you were to attack back with Wingmate Rock and Warden and activate Warden, that gains him 5 life back, you know? I don't know. But I'll reiterate, these guys have more experience with these particular archetypes than I do, so defer to their brilliance.
Double block Rattleclaw Mystic, says Patrick Dickmann.
We did mention during sideboarding that I didn't love the way Death Mist Raptor was going to match up here in this particular matchup, and God, they look ugly in that hand right now.
Don't you just crack fetch land, get Rattleclaw to 5 power?
Currently, it's a
2-for-1. Okay, this one is a 1-for-1 trade. Now there's 6 points of toughness. If he's going to double block, this double block looks a lot better.
Patrick would really like to draw Dramoka's Command or Silk Wrap to combo with the Stasis Snare in his hand.
I mean, Patrick is obliged to block here, to be clear. That Rattleclaw Mystic is the difference between lethal and not lethal. So,
oh yeah.
He could also double block. Why double block Rattleclaw rather than a rock?
Well, the 6 is not going to be enough to take one of the tokens out because the tokens.
Oh, they get to 7 toughness. My bad. They get to 7 toughness. That makes sense. Good answer. All right, so double blocks Rattleclaw Mystic. Shaun gets to kill his choice. He's chosen to put the rock token in the front, and then he has to crack 1 fetch land in order to be able to trade Rattleclaw for that rock. Saves the other one for later. And Patrick down to 4. Shaun could have put him at 2, but he'd rather have an uncracked fetch land.
Land wouldn't be bad, actually, for Patrick. I mean, there's really not that many bad draws. More Deathmist Raptors. Bad draw.
Yeah, everything in his hand will cost 3. How about Disdainful Stroke?
It's not bad.
It's not bad. I mean, it doesn't... I mean, we can see Shaun's hand.
Yeah, but another rock or retreat and another fetch land are some of the worst things that Patrick can be thinking about Shaun having right now, and that's going to allow him to play around that. So
you're saying he can just gain 5 here?
Well, he's not going to do that because he's going to definitely want to be stasis snaring. So I'm guessing he attacks with everything, gains 3, goes to 7.
Stasis
says go.
Snare, stroke? Well, leave up Stasis Snare and stroke.
Yep. Or maybe he leaves one guy back to block a possible token? No, is that right? 3. No, I like attack with everything.
Shaun can crack fetch land for a token. All right, Patrick seems to agree with you. Tentative play is attack with everything.
Yeah, this is good. This puts him at 7. And even if he cracks a fetch, he'll have to make a creature. He'll have 2 creatures that aren't going to get stasis snared. So even a land will not be enough unless he has a fetch land. If Shaun does draw a fetch land, though, I think that he will win the game.
All right, Patrick attacks, gains 3 life to 7, drops Shaun to 9. Patrick's plan is to use the stasis snare that's in his hand such that there's only one 3/4 flyer attacking him next turn. He's going to go face up Den Protector.
Yeah, so he's saying, wow, that's bold. I mean, he must really be sure that Shaun does not have a 4+ in his hand.
Wow. I mean, he can still leave up Disdainful Stroke. I'm just surprised by face up.
Well, it's not. He's not really leaving up Disdainful Stroke because he has to use it to survive next turn. Or maybe he's trying to induce Shaun to use his Windswept Heath to pump as opposed to making a token. I just don't love it. I don't love it. Now, if you're Shaun,
right? Patrick does not have Disdainful Stroke because, sorry, I misspoke, because he has to use his mana for Stasis Snare. That's what you're saying.
Now, if you're Shaun, yeah, you're thinking about how do I make this game go a bit longer so I can Nissa him out.
So crap. All right, here's Nissa. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
This gets him his land drop for the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Which also, oh, by the way, flips Nissa.
What a fascinating game this has been.
It really has been. So Nissa is now a Planeswalker.
Hope all the matches are this good tonight. Except for my match against Chris, which I hope is a bloodbath.
You're just rooting for Chris to mulligan into Bolivia?
It's the best way to win. No, I mean, hopefully he does something brilliant, then I learn something. So
Shaun's looking at this. If there's no Stasis Snare, he's got, or if there's no Stasis Snare or Dramoka's Command, then the game's over. He just wins. So now he's got to figure out how much he wants to play around, right? What are his choices?
I don't think there is much of a choice here. I think you have to attack with boat, or you go into combat. You're going to get Stasis Snared. Then I think that you attack him for 4 down to 3, make an Ashaya token, and Stasis Snare the other guy's Wingmate Rock, and hope to kill him with the bird token. That's my plan, at least. Sounds pretty good.
I guess the fork in the road is what you do with Nissa? Ashaya sure looks good to me, too. I'm with you.
You have to make Ashaya because there's just so many things that could go wrong if you do not make an Ashaya. For example, Dramoka's Command would be really bad. Even if you actually make an Ashaya, Dramoka's Command is going to end up being bad.
So he does have a fetch land still uncracked. So he can get 1 creature to 5. If he could get another fetch land into play, he could deal 7 with 1 creature.
Yeah, but I understand that being a potential way to win the game, but you win such a high percentage of the other games that there's no reason to make such a high variance. What the heck? Why didn't he stay Snare Wingmate Rock? I don't understand.
Wow. He's just giving him the life for no good reason. He just missed the trigger. He was supposed to do it before the life gain, and he accidentally is doing it after the life gain.
I guess it's probably not going to come down to 1 life, but that was weird. I think that was a misclick.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, Shaun agrees with your line. Ashaya and Stasis Snare. And in fact, he's just going to go ahead and do the Stasis Snare now.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I wanted him to do, and it puts Patrick in a position where he's going to have to potentially either draw something great or chump attack his Warden of the First Tree and give it lifelink just to survive another turn. So nicely done by Shaun there. He wanted to think through all of his options, and obviously there's many different permutations there when you have a Nissa out and a fetch land, and your opponent has 3 mana up, and you're playing a 3-color deck. But I think he came up with exactly the right line. Interesting to see what Patrick drew here.
Yeah.
Naturally, Dramoka's Command is a good draw. Windswept Teeth. That's what Windswept Teeth is here. This is the saddest warden that ever lived.
Oh, the chump attack. The third chump attack of the match. Of the game,
Yeah.
even.
Maybe they heard me. I was criticizing them for not attacking and blocking enough. So they're like, you know what? Screw it. I'll start attacking. You want me to attack? Here's my 3/3.
All right, a little bit of life gain.
Patrick is in a hurt locker right now.
Yeah.
Shaun's going to have a draw plus a plus from Nissa to find any sort of thing that kills Patrick, and it's most of his deck. Including a fetch land. That's not a fetch land. So plus Nissa, a fetch land or a removal spell of any kind ends the game.
Top card is
actually
Plains.
a land. Even a land does it because now I can.
Oh,
play
because Canopy Vista from its hand. Yeah.
Basic Plains, the killing card, as it so often is.
Spoken like a true step links. All right, Sean McLaren says, I want it all to come down to next week. Sean McLaren goes to 1-1 in the group. Patrick Dickmann falls to 1-1 in the group. Now we get to find out if Gabby can go to the top and send Kenji to the bottom, or whether we can just have 4 players at 1-1 and a couple win-ins next week. Yeah,
fun match. I thoroughly enjoyed kind of getting inside those 2 players' minds. Patrick is not a player I know as well. Shaun is a guy I've been constantly impressed with and have played, sparred with many times on the Pro Tour. This is a fun deck, fun matchup with a lot of cool interactions.
Totally agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, it's the battle for stream supremacy. It's Numat the Nummy versus the Ambush Viper. Kenji and Gabby coming up. Stay tuned, guys.